Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at a Thursday night slate here, a little one with some back-to-back, some weirdness on it, 5-game slates. I don't want to say no bet Thursdays because we can still find some value here, but it's probably going to be a little bit of a weird night like it is sometimes on Thursdays when there's not as many games after a big slate on Wednesday. Either way, we've got this one and another game video up for you and our player props. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and follow along with us. Also head to thelines.com. You can check out all of the great written content we have up there all season long as we head down the stretch of the NBA. And we have our odds finder tool up there. You can make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all those U.S. sports books, giving you guys bets in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get into this 5-game slate real quick and then talk about this Nets and Kings game.
Yeah, the Nuggets are minus 12.5 at Detroit. You know, anytime you have a small slate with something else going on like March Madness, Detroit gets to play. That is the NBA schedule makers trying to hide them. But I would not trust the Nuggets to cover against anyone unless maybe Mike Malone lit a fire under them. We'll talk about that later. Thunder plus 6.5 or 6, depending where you get it, at the Raptors, total of 231. We will talk about that game. Kings are on a back-to-back here after holding on for a close win in Chicago. They're in Brooklyn, and they're plus 3 as we speak. The spread has grown a little bit, 237 total. Pacers plus 14 at the Bucks, and then the Magic plus 7 at Suns. Orlando, another one of those teams they like to hide on these slates. Though the Kings, I mean, there's something really impressive in the water. I think it's just like a situation where you just want to take a team that takes no nights off and take advantage of the fact that they're now underdogs just because it's a back-to-back situation, but they've handled business on back-to-backs. Those games have been insanely high scoring, including the most recent one with Minnesota, a team that typically goes under, but they hit 270 with them. But I don't trust Brooklyn to score. I mean, not that I trust Minnesota's offense. I just have been on this fade Brooklyn train, and you saw them kind of come back to earth against OKC here. With Dinwiddie shooting 5 for 16 with 6 turnovers. And they shot 29% from 3, which is obviously going to be a barometer for a team that is now spread them out. And Chuck and then Mikal Bridges is doing everything for them. And if those aren't falling, that's going to be a big problem. They leaned on the fact that they got 34 free throw attempts, but that's the one thing that Sacramento limits. What Sacramento struggles with defensively is that high assist rate when you can spread them out and hit threes. Brooklyn has the 3rd lowest assist rate, though, with this new look team, right? And the dead last in terms of paint points, playing at the slowest pace. I have a hard time believing that they're going to score enough to get us to a 237 total. We talked about in the game video for Wednesday about all the Kings' notable road home splits and the fact that they're not necessarily going to get to what was a 237 total at Chicago. Now, the concern here is that Brooklyn's defense is far, far worse than Chicago's right now. With the new squad, 12 games here, they're 28th in rebounding rate, 26th in paint points allowed. Pretty good in terms of transition D, but 20th in opponents' three-point percentage. So, I mean, I'm not willing to say – I think I'm just going to shy away from the total as we stand right now and just say that there's value on the money line for the Kings, who are fighting tooth and nail to get the 2 spot here in the West. Memphis playing pretty well again. We know when Ja's coming back at least. And they haven't taken anything for granted because they are that young, hungry team. And you see other – more old hat teams like the Nuggets and the Celtics right now that they just can't get through a night in the NBA because they're just over it at this point, it seems. But Sacramento and Fox and Sabonis, I'm willing to lean on them, bringing it every night. And that includes on a back-to-back here.
So the thing is like, I'm actually a little bit more on the total because of being scared of the random Brooklyn win game. Now I should clarify too, like Brooklyn's been playing at a much faster pace since roughly their first 6 games with this new team. they were playing at a very slow pace in their first 5 or 6. I think it was really a matter of them not knowing how to play together, really that simple, because their defense has not gotten any better. Their offensive rating hasn't really gotten much better either. It's gotten better from their first like 6 games together, where it was pretty much dead last and they're scoring 101 points a game. But I think you have to look at who they were playing as well. I think it's a huge part of this Nets team in its current iteration. It's really about who they were playing, because even if you look at those first 6 games, definitely a combination of not playing well together yet, not knowing how to, but also who they were playing. They played the Sixers. That's a low, choppy, gross game, and the Sixers actually barely beat them in that game, because sometimes they sleepwalk through these easy ones. The Knicks beat the crap out of them twice, because that's what the Knicks wanted to do. They were pissed that they'd been losing to the Nets for like 4 straight seasons, so they've just been taking it out on them since they started playing them. And then the Heat, and then the Bulls. The Bulls dropped 131 on them, held them with 87 because the game was over by like the second quarter, but the Bulls are also the like 5th best defense in the league on the season right now. Make sure you check those stats. I promise you that's the case. We talked about that in that Kings and Bulls video, which is why we like that to go under. But then you look at the games that they played that do have a bit more scoring in them. It's like the Nuggets at home, the Timberwolves at home, the super fast-paced Bucks, who also didn't really seem to bring it until they had to come back in that game. The Bucks did against this Nets team to make sure that they handled business. Only won by 5 and didn't cover, but that game still had a 231 total, even with the Bucks being the best defense in the league right now. So then you look at the Thunder game; they just really didn't bring it. It was the second night that they were playing on the road like that, and really just. I don't know, the Thunder came out and actually took over in the third quarter. It was just sort of more of a weird affair. And the Thunder are a better team than this Nets team. My main point is like those games that are going way, way over are against teams like the Kings, right? Like they play faster pace and there's a little bit less defense and more offense. And then when you see them play against those teams like the 76ers and the Heat, it's not quite the same, right? It's a little bit slower. So I could see it going over. They limit fast break points is the other thing though. Like they're bad pretty much everywhere except for in transition and on the wing, because that's where all their good players are, is wing players who are big and long and rangy and can also get back on defense and be athletic guys that are tall and still defend the rim in transition. So like it makes sense that they're good at that, bad at everything else. If they were better at assists, they'd probably be better, but once again, they don't know how to play with each other, and who's their playmaker getting them those assists. So another reason that we faded the Nets is because who are they turning to down the stretch? Mikhail the Destroyer has done well. He's sort of rubbed it in our faces a bit here and there. He's also been pretty good in the clutch, but are you going to depend on that after we just watched De'Aaron Fox do what he did again? I think it's better to bet on the Kings in this one, but if you look at those Kings on no rest numbers, that's kind of my final thing. It's pretty absurd. It's a little bit skewed by the fact that they played that Clippers game on no rest, and that was the second highest scoring game in the history of the NBA. But even if you take that out, right, it's still like 126 points per game in their last 8 on no rest, and also allowing 126 in that time as well, 125 and a half, whatever. So like there you go with a 252 total on these Kings games when they're playing on no rest, where they're just draining threes, allowing threes. They're only playing at a 99 pace. They're just sort of lollygagging around and scoring at will is kind of how it's gone when they played on no rest. And I kind of believe in that, to be honest. I put some stock into that, along with the fact that I do think that this Nets team will be able to score on them, because the Kings aren't really going to play defense anywhere on the road right now.
And the Kings just played at a 104 pace in Chicago last night. It's really, the only thing that would give me pause is if they are like saying that was too close of a game. Fox continues to carry the load in the clutch, and he has a balky hamstring. Let's rest him. And then it's a completely different game, and the under is very much sitting pretty because Davion Mitchell is not a scorer, and he would be the one to step in here. But it's the same situation when we talked about the Bulls being like 2-5 in the clutch in their last 7, the Kings being the number 1 team on the road in the clutch, and Fox being that number 1 guy. Well, I mean, here's the new look Nets clutch numbers: 29th in offensive rating, 28th in net, 29th in rebounding rate. Somehow are 2-2, and you went through their game log in terms of who they're able to pop up and get. Of course the Sixers played them close. That's what the Sixers do. They try to get rest where they can. The Bucks, I believe, sat both Giannis and Drew for that game, and then the Nets sat everybody in some sort of weird I tank you tank move. And and then Denver, who knows what's going on there? Minnesota has been extremely inconsistent. And then you get a team like OKC, who's exactly like SAC, a young, hungry team that doesn't really take nights off, right now, and they just gave him the work. I just don't think that there's much talent on this Brooklyn team. Other teams know that, and some will try to use them as kind of a night off to a degree. But I think the Kings are not really going to play that. I think they're going to continue to bring it and probably win another road game.
Yeah, and I mean, I know I'm ending it with a disclaimer, but full disclaimer, this video is being recorded on Wednesday night, right? We just watched the end of that Kings game, and now we're talking about this next day, but we obviously don't have an injury report submitted for this team, so we don't necessarily know who's going to play. The only one we even have props for in this game is Mikal Bridges, and I do like it to go over, so I think we'll probably be talking about him some more in that player props video, but that is all the time we have for you in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along, and until we see you next, happy betting.